Imagine you're sitting in your doctor's office and you're being told that your bones are just absolutely starving for vitamin D.
Right, like a massive red flag.
Exactly. Your lab results are, flashing red, warning of this severe deficiency. But then an X-ray reveals that your skeleton is actually twice as strong and half as likely to fracture as the person sitting right next to you who has perfectly normal lab scores.
Yeah, it completely breaks the mental model we have of healthcare. I mean, we like to think of our health as a car dashboard.
Oh, for sure.
The check engine light comes on, you plug in a diagnostic reader, you get a simple code, and you just know exactly what is wrong.
Right. You need oil, you pour in oil. It's supposed to be binary.
Well, it's actually much worse than the dashboard just glitching. It is like the dashboard is functioning perfectly, but it's displaying information in language your body's engine doesn't even speak.
Wow, yeah.
When we step into the world of human biology, specifically, how we process nutrients and how we measure systemic health, we are relying on diagnostics that are just fundamentally misaligned with biological reality.
Which is exactly why we are doing this custom-tailored deep dive created just for you.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to take the stack of sources you provided, and I mean, we are talking heavy hitters here.
Oh, absolutely.
We've got everything from the annals of internal medicine to clinical nutrition trials, and we're going to cut straight through all that modern wellness noise.
Yes, we are going to uncover the actual grounded science of how to fuel your body, fix your gut, and, accurately measure your health.
So we've got 3 main stops on this journey today.
Right. We will start by examining the structural truth about muscle-building proteins, which includes the cellular mechanics behind a very surprising plant-based hack.
I am so excited for that part.
It's a good one. And from there, we'll explore how targeted clinical probiotics actually alter the gut at a mucosal level.
Yeah.
And finally, we will break down those shocking inconsistencies in standard vitamin D testing that we just mentioned.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the fundamental building blocks of the body.
Right.
Because before we can even talk about how the gut absorbs nutrients, we really need to look at what we are actually putting into it. And I mean, in the fitness world, nothing gets debated more than protein.
Oh, yeah. Constant debate.
Specifically whey versus casein.
Yeah. And to really understand why they behave so differently in your body, you have to look at their physical origins.
Right.
Both casein and whey are derived entirely from cow's milk. Casein makes up about 80% and whey is the other 20%.
Okay.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that these highly engineered, super expensive fitness supplements are essentially just, ancient byproducts of cheese making.
Yes. I found the mechanics of this in the sources absolutely fascinating.
It's wild, right?
It is. During the cheese-making process, when you heat the milk and add specific enzymes or acids, the protein structures literally break apart and reform. The casein in the milk coagulates. It turns into these solid, rubbery curds. Meanwhile, the liquid that gets left behind and drained off, that's the whey. So they take that liquid, wash it, dry it into a powder, and boom, you have your standard tub of post-workout protein.
Exactly. And that physical distinction, one being a solid curd and one being a water-soluble liquid, dictates everything about how your body metabolizes them.
Because of the stomach acid, right?
Yes, it all comes down to the rate of gastric emptying. Because whey is fundamentally a liquid-based protein, it passes through the acidic environment of the stomach almost instantly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, research shows that amino acid levels in your bloodstream skyrocket in just 60 to 90 minutes after consuming whey. Casein, however, takes up to 6 hours to fully digest.
And the reason it takes 6 hours is just the crazy part.
Yeah, it really is.
When casein hits the hydrochloric acid in your stomach essentially repeats the cheese-making process.
Exactly.
The acidic pH causes the casein proteins to unfold, expose their water-repelling core, and they physically clump together.
Right.
It forms an actual solid mass of curds right there inside your stomach, which your digestive enzymes then have to slowly chip away at over hours.
Which is why timing is so crucial. I mean, that slow chipping process provides a steady, sustained release of amino acids into the bloodstream over a long period.
Right, so if you've ever chugged a heavy casein shake right before a run.
Oh, yeah. Terrible idea.
Right, and you felt like you had a literal brick bouncing around in your stomach, this is why. You've accidentally manufactured cheese inside your own digestive tract.
Basically, yeah.
So whey is your rapid absorption tool for an immediate post-workout recovery window, while casein is basically a time-release capsule, perfect for muscle maintenance while you sleep.
But, the speed of digestion is really only half the story here. The sources detail how these proteins contain entirely distinct bioactive compounds.
Right.
Casein, for example, contains specific peptides that act very similarly to ACE inhibitors.
Wait, those are the blood pressure medications, right?
Yeah, ACE stands for angiotensin-converting enzyme. And this enzyme normally constricts your blood vessels, which raises your blood pressure.
Got it.
The peptides in casein naturally block this enzyme, helping blood vessels relax. Plus, casein naturally binds to minerals, dramatically improving your gut's ability to absorb calcium and phosphorus.
That's amazing. And what about whey?
Whey, on the other hand, is loaded with immunoglobulins.
Okay, and those stuff
These are specialized proteins that actively bind to bacteria and viruses in the digestive tract, neutralizing them before they can even cause an infection. It also contains compounds that enhance the absorption of iron.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second.
Sure.
If whey is this undisputed, rapid-absorbing, immune-boosting king of the gym, and casein is this incredible time-release mineral vault,
Right.
where does that leave plant-based proteins?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me that just tossing some peas and canola oil in a blender is going to match the biological impact of pure dairy isolate. The math just doesn't add up.
You're touching on what has been basically the prevailing narrative in sports nutrition for decades.
Yeah.
Plant proteins are generally considered, incomplete or structurally inferior because they just don't trigger the same anabolic muscle-building response as dairy.
Right, exactly.
But the clinical nutrition trial in your sources completely dismantles that assumption, provided you understand the cellular triggers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The researchers looked at a specific plant-based blend, 88% pea protein and 12% canola protein.
Okay.
On its own, yes, this blend totally falls short away. But the researchers introduced a molecular hack.
Ooh, hack.
They fortified that exact plant blend with a single specific amino acid called leucine.
Wait, they just sprinkled in one extra amino acid and it changed the entire biological response? How does that even work?
It works because of a specific signaling pathway in your cells, known as mTOR. That's the mammalian target of rapamycin.
Oh.
Think of your muscle cell like a massive construction site. You can deliver all the bricks and steel in the world to that site, representing all the various amino acids you eat. But if the foreman isn't there to blow the whistle, no one starts building.
I see.
Leucine is the foreman. It physically binds to the mTOR complex, effectively flipping the master switch from a resting state to an active muscle-building state.
That is incredible. So by just isolating and adding enough of that specific foreman molecule to the 88% pea and 12% canola blend, they trick the body.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The researchers forced the plant protein to match whey protein perfectly in stimulating muscle protein synthesis in both young men and women.
Wow.
Precisely. Total daily protein intake is still the most important metric. But the takeaway for you, the listener, is that you don't have to rely on animal byproducts to get an optimal physiological response.
Right.
If you are vegan or just trying to reduce dairy, hacking a plant protein by ensuring it has a high leucine content totally levels the biological playing field.
But, we've just engineered the perfect plant-based protein using leucine, and none of that muscle-building potential matters if your gut wall is too inflamed or damaged to actually absorb it.
That's a great point.
Which is exactly what happens when our microbiome is compromised.
Yeah, and this naturally transitions us to the second major theme in your sources, the microbiome and the targeted power of probiotics.
Right.
For a long time, probiotics have suffered from a bit of a branding problem.
Yeah, they really have.
They were lumped into this vague category of general wellness, promoted as something simply, good for digestion.
Right. It's the idea of drinking a bottle of sugary kombucha just because the label says gut health without really knowing what it's doing.
What's fascinating here is that the clinical meta-analyses you provided paint a highly specific medical picture.
Wow. Okay.
We are no longer talking about general wellness. We are talking about targeted clinical efficacy for severe gastrointestinal disorders.
Like what?
Let's look at irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS. The literature shows 100% expert agreement that specific probiotic strains reduce the overall symptom burden and abdominal pain for IBS patients.
Tim, what I found so illuminating was the how. It's not just a placebo effect.
No, not at all.
The data shows probiotics specifically help with diarrhea-predominant IBS by modulating the local nervous system of the gut, significantly reducing bloating, flatulence, and that debilitating feeling of sudden urgency.
Right. And the mechanisms become even more pronounced when we look at inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis.
Okay, yeah.
In these conditions, the immune system is essentially attacking the gut lining. Probiotics have been shown to actively reduce systemic inflammatory markers, specifically one called C-reactive protein, or CRP.
Let's break down CRP for a second because that term gets thrown around a lot in blood tests.
Yeah, good idea. C-reactive protein is basically an alarm chemical produced by your liver when there is severe inflammation somewhere in your body.
Got it.
In the case of IBD, the gut's immune cells are pumping out pro-inflammatory signals called cytokines. What specific probiotics do is interface directly with the mucosal lining of the intestine and actively suppress those pro-inflammatory cytokines.
Oh, wow.
They literally send a biochemical signal to your immune system, telling it to stand down, which causes your liver to stop producing CRP.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially when we look at how doctors treat bacterial infections.
Yeah.
We all know taking a heavy course of antibiotics can absolutely wreck your stomach.
Oh, completely.
Antibiotics are essentially like dropping a bleach bomb in a crowded city. I mean, they wipe out the bad guys causing the infection, but all the shopkeepers, teachers, and innocent bystanders die too.
That's a great way to put it.
The entire ecosystem is sterilized. But using probiotics as an adjuvant therapy, meaning taking them alongside the antibiotics, isn't just about planting seeds in the empty space.
Right.
It's like sending in the National Guard to immediately occupy all the empty storefronts so the bad guys can't instantly move back in and take over.
Yeah, that concept you just described is known in microbiology as competitive exclusion, and it is vital.
Competitive exclusion.
Exactly. Pathogenic bacteria, like Clostridioides difficile, are opportunistic. If there's empty physical real estate on the gut wall after an antibiotic wipeout, they will attach and multiply, causing severe antibiotic-associated diarrhea, or AAD.
Nobody wants that.
No. But when you introduce a massive dose of specific probiotics during a course of antibiotics, or during aggressive treatments like Helicobacter pylori eradication therapy, those probiotics physically bind to the gut lining.
Right.
They occupy the space,
Right.
consume the available nutrients, and alter the local pH, making it totally hostile for the pathogens to survive.
So they are effectively a low-risk, highly specialized tactical squad.
Exactly.
They prevent the AAD, shorten the duration of any diarrhea that does occur, and act as a bridge to help your natural, healthy gut flora slowly rebuild.
Yeah.
And the sources emphasize that even alongside heavy antibiotic regimens, these probiotics are remarkably safe and well tolerated.
So we've established that we have a deep mechanistic understanding of how to use probiotics to tactically target gut health and how to measure systemic inflammation using markers like CRP.
Right.
You would naturally assume that our standard methods for measuring overall systemic health like checking for common vitamin deficiencies would be equally precise and scientifically sound.
You would think. Going back to our initial dashboard analogy, if we understand the engine at a molecular level, reading the fuel gauge should be the easiest part of the process.
Yeah, but this raises an important question about the nature of our medical baselines. Because the data in your sources reveals a massive systemic blind spot in standard medicine, specifically regarding vitamin D.
This section of the deep dive absolutely blew my mind.
It's shocking, really.
For the last decade, we have been constantly bombarded with the message that everyone is deficient in vitamin D and that we need to be constantly checking our blood levels. But the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, the USPSTF, which is basically the gold standard for clinical guidelines, actually issued an I statement regarding vitamin D screening for asymptomatic adults.
Yeah, and an I statement is a very specific, very powerful clinical designation.
What does it mean exactly?
It means the task force formally concluded there is insufficient evidence to assess the balance of benefits and harms for routine screening.
Wow.
Simply put, if you feel fine and have no symptoms of bone disease, mass testing for vitamin D deficiency is just not supported by the current scientific evidence.
And a major reason for that lack of support is how unbelievably flawed the testing itself is.
Oh, the testing's a mess.
The sources show that right now there is absolutely no internationally recognized reference standard for vitamin D tests.
Right.
Because of that lack of standardization, whether a lab classifies you as deficient or normal can vary by 4% to an astonishing 32%, purely depending on the specific chemical antibodies that particular lab used to run the assay on your blood.
The variability alone is troubling, but the blind spot becomes a canyon when we look at demographic and genetic data.
Yeah.
The sources highlight a well-documented phenomenon known as the African American paradox.
Yes. The clinical data consistently shows that African Americans have naturally significantly lower levels of total serum vitamin D compared to white populations.
Right.
If a doctor just looks at that standardized lab report, they would assume there is a massive population-wide health crisis of bone deficiency.
Exactly.
But the actual clinical outcomes show the exact opposite. Their risk of bone fractures is actually half that of white persons. Half.
So we have to ask, how can a population have significantly lower levels of the bone health vitamin in their blood, yet possess drastically stronger, denser bones?
It makes no sense on the surface.
Right. But the answer lies in the physiological difference between total vitamin D and bioavailable vitamin D.
Let's break that distinction down because it completely changes how you view a blood test.
Okay, so when a standard lab tests your blood, they're measuring total serum vitamin D. But the vast majority of that vitamin D isn't floating around freely.
Right.
It is tightly bound to a specific protein called the vitamin D binding protein, or VDBP.
Okay.
Think of the VDBP like a biological bank vault. While the vitamin D is locked inside that vault, your cells cannot actually use it.
Gotcha.
Bioavailable vitamin D is the tiny fraction that is unbound. It's the cash currently in the wallet, free for your body to spend and use immediately.
So what does this all mean?
Well, emerging genetic science suggests that different populations have different variants of that binding protein.
Ah.
So while the total vitamin D locked in the vault might be lower in African Americans, the amount of bioavailable, usable cash in the wallet is likely exactly the same across different races.
So we are literally misdiagnosing millions of people because we've built a medical dashboard that only counts the vaults, completely ignoring the cash in the wallet. If the test results change depending on the lab, and being labeled deficient doesn't even translate to broken bones in certain demographics, we are basically just measuring a shadow instead of the actual object.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces us to apply rigorous critical thinking to the concepts of overdiagnosis and underdiagnosis.
Yeah.
The Institute of Medicine simply recommends a daily dietary intake of 600 to 800 international units of vitamin D for adults.
Okay.
That baseline covers the physiological needs of nearly everyone, rendering mass blood screening largely unnecessary and potentially even harmful for asymptomatic people.
Right, because chasing that shadow can lead to real-world consequences.
Absolutely.
If someone gets a flawed lab report that says they are severely deficient, they might panic and start taking massive doses of synthetic vitamin D supplements.
Exactly. And while it is rare, massive oversupplementation can lead to a condition called hypercalcemia.
What happens then?
Well, vitamin D regulates calcium absorption. If you flood the system with too much vitamin D, your body absorbs far too much calcium from your diet and even starts leaching it out of your bones into your bloodstream.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that excess calcium can calcify soft tissues, cause severe kidney stones, and disrupt heart rhythms. You risk poisoning the patient to fix a number on a chart that wasn't causing a problem in the first place.
It really puts the danger of generic medical guidelines into perspective. Sometimes the check engine light is just a faulty sensor calibrated to the wrong car, and the engine itself is actually running perfectly fine.
We have to treat the biological reality of the patient, not just the standardized lab result.
What an incredible stack of sources you provided for this deep dive. Let's quickly recap the journey we've just been on.
Yeah, let's do it.
We started down at the molecular level, learning that digestion speed dictates the function of dairy proteins, but more importantly, that by adding the MT or triggering amino acid leucine, you can physically hack a pea and canola blend to perfectly mimic the muscle-building power of whey.
All right, and from the stomach, we move down into the mucosal lining of the gut, discovering that probiotics act via competitive exclusion and cytokine suppression.
The tactical squad.
Exactly. They function as targeted tactical squads capable of treating specific GI disorders and counteracting the sterilizing, destructive nature of antibiotics.
And finally, we pulled all the way back to look at systemic health measurement. We learned that routine vitamin D tests are highly inconsistent, focus on bound proteins rather than bioavailable nutrients, and highlight a racial paradox that proves standard diagnostic baselines are deeply flawed.
We are witnessing a massive paradigm shift in how we understand human health. The era of treating the body as a generic machine with one-size-fits-all dashboard warnings is ending.
And that brings us to a final thought for you to take away today. We've just proven that our current medical baselines are skewed, that what is deficient for one demographic is perfectly optimal for another. Well, right now, millions of us are strapping smartwatches to our wrists and looking toward a future of neural links and real-time internal biosensors, tracking our heart rate, glucose, and oxygen minute by minute.
It's everywhere.
As this avalanche of personalized, real-time data comes flooding in, it makes you wonder, will this new technology finally help us realize that the healthy ranges we've been taught for the last 100 years were actually designed for a statistical average human that doesn't even exist?
That is a profound question, and one the medical community is going to have to reckon with very soon.
Thank you so much for sharing these incredible sources with us. It's been an absolute blast unpacking the mechanics of them with you on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next one.